Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you the power rankings for Week 8 of the National Pokeball League. And just a warning, I will be pausing this video quite frequently, as I have been kind of plagued by a cold recently and have been coughing a lot. And considering I don't want to record coughing on, I guess, screen or on the recording or whatever, I will be pausing the video in order to cough and then continue with the, well, I guess, justification or whatever I'm doing at the time. But anyway, in the NPL, this week was another week of the 5-0, and in a surprising twist, this week's battles resulted in huge changes up and down the power rankings in what I believe to be the biggest changes of the season. Additionally, there will be no undefeated champion, as the Toronto Star Raptors, the lone remaining unbeaten, were knocked off by the San Antonio Swamperts in very anticlimactic fashion, unfortunately. I would like to note that because the season is coming to a close, per the request of the Commissioner, I will be spending very little time discussing the teams that are statistically eliminated from the playoff hunt in order to spend more time talking about the teams remaining in the playoff picture. If you do not like this format for the power rankings and would prefer that I spend time talking about each team, please leave a comment below beginning with Jolt Sucks. That way I know which comments to look for when I figure out how to do next week's rankings video. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into them. Starting at the bottom, we have 4 teams that are unfortunately eliminated from the playoff picture, so because of Jolt, I will not be talking about them too much. At number 12, we have the Colorado Avalugs, who are 1-7 with a -25 differential. They were previously at the bottom, so there's no change there, and they lost to Portland 0-5. At number 11, we have the Montreal Cobalines, who are 2-6 with a -5 differential. They were previously number 11, so no change, and they lost to the Phoenix Sunkern 0-5. At number 10, we have the Oakland Rose Raiders, who are 2-6 with a -14 differential. They were previously 8, so they're down 2. And they lost to the Washington Charizards 6-0, and they're obviously eliminated as well. And finally, at number 9, we have the New York Metangs, who are 3-5 with a -6 differential, previously number 10, so they're up 1. And they won over Manaphy City 5-0, and as much as I would love to talk about their battle and how well they did, I really have to focus on the playoff teams. So again, if you don't like it, just leave a comment below. At the middle of the pack, we have at number 8 the Washington Charizards, who are 3-5 with a -6 differential. They were previously 9, so they're up 1. They won over the Oakland Rose Raiders 6-0, and in the surprise of the season, Washington has jumped firmly from the bottom 4 to suddenly a contender in the playoff hunt, as they have rattled off 2 consecutive very impressive wins. My congratulations goes to their coach for making a team that was pretty much counted as down and out and turning them into a playoff contender. In the battle, really Taunt Superfang Crobat was able to put in work early on, getting Lopunny and Vaporeon to around half health, and despite getting burned, it was eventually able to wear down 2/3 of Oakland's team while preventing Wishes from being passed with said taunt. Eventually, the combination of Crocodile and Tornadus T proved just too much for Oakland, as Washington was able to take the match very, very convincingly. Actually, as convincing as you can get. I don't think it gets much better than 6-0. In terms of the playoff picture for Washington, I'm not going to lie, it looks kind of bleak. In order to take a spot, they have to jump over both Manaphy City and San Antonio for a shot. But I mean, that being said, this is definitely possible. And I mean, once again, I congratulate their coach for turning the season around to where the team is even in a discussion for a playoff spot after an abysmal start. So if they win next week, they will actually be 1 spot out of the playoff hunt. At number 7, we have Manaphy City, who is 4-4 with a -3 differential. They were previously number 4, so they have dropped 3 spots because they lost to the New York Metangs 5-0. With a chance to jump into a playoff spot, Manaphy City looked to be in an excellent position to do so, as they were matched up against the New York Metangs team, who was eliminated from playoff contention and has been near the bottom of the rankings for the majority of the season. Unfortunately, New York turned in arguably their best performance to date, causing Manaphy City to come away with a devastating 5-0 defeat. From the beginning of the battle, Manaphy City looked to be in a great position, as Gothitelle was able to trap and trick Porygon 2 a Choice Scarf, an item which would normally completely kill Porygon 2's usage. However, Manaphy City got trevved as Porygon 2 was revealed to be max attack and adamant, as analytic boosted return took out Gothitelle and was able to easily 2-hit KO the Mega Pinsir, although he didn't leave the Mega Pinsir in, obviously, but it was an easy 2-hit KO. It was really just downhill from there for Manaphy City, as New York was able to eventually use Regigigas to mow down the rest of Manaphy City's team with Returns, Thunder Waves, and Confuse Rays. As for the playoff potential of Manaphy City, currently they are just outside the picture in the 7th slot. However, I really can't give much as to whether or not I think Manaphy City will make the playoffs, as they've just hovered right around the middle of the pack all year long. If they make the playoffs, I don't necessarily think they'll make a deep run, but I mean, Manaphy City has proven to be a solid team all year that can decimate an unprepared team, and next week's match versus the Washington Charizards will be gigantic in terms of the playoff hunt for that very last spot. At number 6, we have the San Antonio Swamperts, who are 4-4 with a +3 differential. They were previously 7, so they are up 1, and they won over the Toronto Staraptors 5-0. And really, San Antonio has proven that they are a force to be reckoned with, as they did something that no team has done thus far, and was able to defeat the Toronto Staraptors, albeit with a little bit of hacks. Early in the game, he was able to capitalize on a crit against Toronto's Breloom and take out 2 Pokemon while heavily damaging Megaladios with his Conkeldurr. His use of Cobra Berry came in incredibly handy against Toronto's Talonflame, as Conk was able to easily eat up the hit and KO it back with Rock Slide. Once Conkeldurr smashed that hole in Toronto's team, San Antonio really had nothing to worry about the rest of the way, as Scarf Heatran was actually able to clean up the game with minimal effort. In terms of the playoff outlook for San Antonio, I would have to say that if they make it, it would almost certainly be as a bottom seed, as they have been streaky throughout the entire season and don't seem to have a general understanding of the word consistency. That being said, if they get hot, I can definitely see them being able to take it all the way to the championship. But, I mean, again, at the same time, they're also a team that could lose out and miss the playoffs entirely. San Antonio is one team that wouldn't surprise me if they made a run, but I wouldn't necessarily put my money on them. At number 5, we have the St. Louis Reshiram, who are 5-3 with a +4 differential. They were previously number 6, so they are up 1, and they won over the Atlanta Braves 2-0, and after a phenomenal start to the season, St. Louis had lost 3 in a row heading into this week, and with a match against the number 2 team in the league, things did not seem to be looking up for the Reshirams. However, in probably the gutsiest win of the season, and no, there's no pun there because none of the Pokemon had guts, St. Louis was able to out-create the creative master, as St. Louis's creative sets were able to give him the edge he needed to pull out a victory and guarantee him a spot in the playoffs. Heatproof Rock Slide Bronzong was able to not only take on, but take out Mega Charizard Y, and Assault Vest Azelf was able to KO Greninja, ultimately paving the way for a late-game Salamence sweep. As for the playoff picture for St. Louis, while they are guaranteed a spot, things do not necessarily look the best as of right now. Unless St. Louis wins out and both Toronto and Phoenix lose out, St. Louis will be playing against one of those teams in the play-in game and would have to defeat both of them in order to make the championship. Additionally, the top-heaviness of St. Louis's team just does not look particularly conducive to being able to defeat the preparation of Phoenix and Toronto. However, I was wrong at the beginning of the season, and I may very well be wrong again. St. Louis is definitely capable of a deep run, and I look forward to seeing how they do. And here we go with the big dogs. At number 4, we have the Portland Timbers, who are 5-3 with a +10 differential. They were previously 5, so they're up 1, and they won over the Colorado Avalanche 5-0. Just like St. Louis, Portland was in the middle of a 3-game slide going into this week after starting 5-0. However, again like St. Louis, their captain was able to right the ship as they pulled off a convincing win over Colorado. In the battle, while their patented Cresselia was shut down by Taunt Mew, it still managed to take out Hoopa and Bound with 2 Signal Beams, although it's kind of sad that it took 2 to take out a 4X weak Pokemon. In fact, it wasn't even like a convincing 2-hit KO, it was like right at 50%, so I mean that was kind of sad to see. However, with Entei and Rotom both worn down, Scizor was able to set up a Swords Dance and rip a hole through Colorado's team to where all Mega Gardevoir had to do was click Hyper Voice once to take out a 30% Mew for the game. If you asked me last week what Portland's playoff chances were, I would have told you slim to none, as they were in the middle of the 3-game slide where things just seemed to be getting worse. However, despite it only being a win against the bottom-ranked team, Portland had a dominating performance, only losing a single Pokemon after that same Mon took out the majority of Colorado's team. After that showing, I have to say Portland is starting to look like the team that was ranked number 1 for so much of the season, and will be a huge threat come playoff time. At number 3, we have the Atlanta Braviary, who are 6-2 with a plus 13 differential. They were previously number 2, so they are down 1. And they lost to the St. Louis Rush Rams 0-2. Atlanta had an opportunity to rise to the top spot of the rankings for the first time this season, but unfortunately those hopes were dashed by an apparently resurgent St. Louis squad. In the battle, Trev made a gutsy move in bringing a physical Mega Charizard Y with Brick Break to take on St. Louis's Tyranitar, but unfortunately that gamble did not pay off, as Charizard was able to be taken out by a Bronzong with Rock Slide. Additionally, Trev was caught off guard by an Assault Vest Azelf who was able to take out Greninja while sustaining minimal damage. Although Doublade got yet another kill, their coach was not able to do as much as Life Orb Salamence was able to just clean up the game with Earthquake and Outrage. When it comes to the playoff picture, Atlanta is firmly in contention for a title, as they have the experience of what it takes to pull off a championship, and they are also the most creative with their sets of any coach in this league. The combination of experience and unpredictability makes Atlanta a definite threat for a deep playoff run, but that same creativity that nets him some surprise KOs could also come back to bite him should the set not work in the way he hoped, kind of like in this match, which would ultimately be his undoing. At number 2, we have the Toronto Star Raptors, who are 7-1 with a plus 19 differential. They were previously number 1, so they are down 1 after losing to the San Antonio Swamperts 0-5. And finally, someone knocked off the last of the undefeateds. The only problem is I can't really savor this moment because Hacks truly did play a gigantic role in the game. Toronto obviously had little for Coveberry Conkeldurr, as he was prepared to sack both Breloom and Talonflame to get sufficient damage on it to be taken out. Unfortunately, Breloom got critted on the switch, allowing Conkeldurr to take it out with a Mach Punch before Breloom could get any damage on it at all, and Talonflame took near a max roll from Rock Slide when even an above average roll would have allowed it to live. Once those couple of turns happened, it was all downhill, and Jolt was forced to take massive damage with his Mega Latios, leaving it unable to live even a Lava Plume from a Heatran, ultimately costing the game and his undefeated record. In terms of the playoff picture for Toronto, at the current moment, I would have to say that they are the favorite, as they have the best record in the entire league, and their only loss was due in part to some very unfortunately timed hacks. That being said, Jolt has a history of getting hacked in critical moments, particularly in tournaments, so I'm hesitant to put too much faith in him to win it all. However, of the teams in the current playoff picture, Toronto has to be in the discussion for potential champion. And at number 1, we have the Phoenix Sunkern, who are 6-2 with a plus 17 differential. They were previously number 3, so they're up 2 after winning over the Montreal Cobalions 5-0. Back in the number 1 spot for the first time since the preseason, the Sunkern are undoubtedly the hottest team in the league right now. After an initial setback early season, their preparation and plays have been on point, allowing them to climb back up in the rankings and earn the top spot. A turn 1 setup by Manaphy caused Montreal to lose 2 Mons before the game had even really started, and a later setup by Manaphy just a few turns later left Montreal with only a 50% health Charizard against the entirety of Phoenix's team. And that Mon was quickly and quietly dispatched by Gengar. It really wasn't too much of a game, as Manaphy just destroyed all of Montreal's team from the beginning, giving Phoenix a quick and decisive 5-0 victory. Given the current playoff picture, while they may not even have the top seed in their conference, I would have to say that Phoenix is the team most poised to make a championship run at this point in the season. Now, that is different from the favorite. They are the team that is in the best position, but I think Toronto is still the favorite. Their preparation has been nearly unmatched in recent weeks, and they seem to be hitting their stride at the right point in the season, putting them in a great position to make a deep playoff run. But anyway, that is the rankings. Thank you for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx, signing out. Why not?